So you look at guys like Johnny Manziel, you look at guys first overall picks, JaMarcus Russell, you were a first overall pick. You said it earlier. You're 21 years old. You're the face of a franchise in a city. You got women throwing themselves at you. You know, how do you handle that, and why do some guys seem to handle it better than others?
Yeah, it's a very seductive lifestyle. You know, you kind of just have everything at your beck and call, and you got some money. And the funny thing, I was just talking about this last night. Back in the day, they couldn't. When you were in college, if your coach couldn't buy you a sandwich, that was a violation.
Yeah,
you know, you couldn't have anything. Right?
Terrell Pryor got a tattoo, and
then the minute that you all of a sudden now you sign, you have money. Well, then you can't pay for anything. Everything's free. You know, after you have money, everything's free.
The statute of limitations are off. So did you get some under the table?
I got none, man. I was so pissed, man. There was one year. They ran this article in my hometown paper about Washington State, my alma mater, paying players, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" You know, I'm the quarterback. You know, I didn't get offered. You know, I'd love to say that I'm very, you know, have great morals, but I didn't even get the opportunity to say no. Well, it turns out it was an April Fool's joke. You know, and so no, I never did get paid. I'd love to stand here and tell you I wouldn't have taken any money, but when you're 18 years old and somebody hands you money, you probably take it. But yeah, no, with the top picks, you know, especially at quarterback, you know, you got to come in. You have to have all the emotional components. You got to be emotionally stable because it's going to be hard. You got to be able to get up when you get knocked down. You got to be able to be strong, even though your team's going to suck for a while. And then, but you also can do everything right and still not have success if you're part of a bad franchise. You know, you look at Sam Darnold this year. I liked Sam Darnold when he was drafted. Unfortunately, he was drafted to the Jets, where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah, that's nuts.
You know, like they like it's.
And he had all the market. He's got the body.
He's got the body. He's got the mind. He's got the arm. All this stuff. And all of a sudden, he goes to Minnesota, and he's, you know, he was, you know, kind of in the MVP, you know, talks for a while this year. And so, you know, you can do everything right, and it can still not go well. But then you also have the other stories where if you self-destruct, man, you know, that just turns into a
What do you think the most important thing is? So you came out right out of the gate. Did you lead the league in passing your first year?
Second year. Second year. Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible because back then it wasn't common that even top picks would necessarily start their first year. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It was becoming more common in the 90s, but it wasn't the norm that it is
now.
now.
I mean, it's pretty easy when you're just, you know, just running play action off of Curtis Martin and all that.
Oh yeah,
it was super easy. Yeah, exactly. I didn't have Curtis till my third year, so don't give me that shit. Don't give me that shit. Actually, I think it was the third year. Third year, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot, right? And so in terms of what the actual quarterback can do, right? So first of all, you have to, that emotional stability is something that I don't know that they do a deep enough dive on when they look at guys, you know, because you got to be able to deal with just mountains of shit, you know, and you got to be able to deal with the positive and the negative. And sometimes the positive is even harder to handle. You know, all of a sudden you think that you're on top of the world.
Like the apple, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Night, yeah. And you can fall in love with that. And then you got to be really smart. You got to be able to digest a lot of information.
Everything's so much quicker.
And everything's so much faster. The windows are way smaller. Your timing has got to be perfect. Your accuracy's got to be perfect. And then there's a quarterbacky thing. Like if they ever asked me to come in and look at quarterbacks, the anticipation that you have to have at that level, because you can't wait until you see an open receiver. You have to throw it to where he's going to be open. And I watch some quarterbacks that come through, and you're like, they've got all the things you can see, the size, the arm strength, you know, all of this stuff. And then I'll watch him play, and if I'm at, you know, you can pull it back and watch from, and they're like, oh yeah, he's waiting until he sees him. Waiting until he sees him.
There's so many of them,
and there's a lot of guys. I'm not going to call them out by name, but you can. But I can see that really, really quickly, and then you see other guys. You're like, oh, he's the ball's out of his hands before that guy's open. That guy's going to have a chance to be successful.
And at the college level, they're just so open.
Well, we talk about that all the time. The one of the reasons the blue blood schools, and when I say blue blood, I mean specifically the one, not all of them, but specifically the ones that always have great receivers, like Ohio State, Alabama, are two good examples. LSU is another one sometimes. The quarterbacks that come out of there usually don't do great in the NFL. That's historically been true, right? Alabama never had a great quarterback in the NFL for a very long time, right? And technically still don't. Ohio State, we'll see with CJ Stroud.
Jalen's playing.
He's doing pretty well, but like as a passer, he's
a decent passer.
I just think
no, I totally agree with you. You know, you look at these guys that come out, you're like, okay, well, you're standing there, nobody hits you, and your guys are wide open. Well, that's pretty easy.
Yeah, which makes what Joe Burrow has done all the more impressive because he had Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
And you still learn how to actually play the position with those guys.
No, he's done really well. You know, Ohio State was the one that had just flop after flop after flop
until
after
CJ
flop.
Stroud.
Until CJ Stroud, they like the Ohio State quarterbacks were almost cursed. And I do think your point is very valid. You know, when you if you're playing quarterback and you can stand there and you can throw the ball and watch it completed and you're still standing there and your guy's open, that's pretty easy, right?
Like you never learn how to move in the pocket. I mean, like there's guys that are really good at it. There's guys that are just great at this stuff.
Oh, just sliding around in the pocket,
sensing the pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing, like you got to know your offensive line and how they operate, what their tendencies are, and where they're going to push people. I mean, it's a lot of stuff to remember to then throw a ball in traffic and get hit by a 250-pound dude coming at you 20 miles an hour.
250. We're talking about like the 60s. They're like 300-pound dude. Dude, I remember my very first game was at Buffalo. And we were just talking about the Bills earlier, and they were coming off of like the third of their four Super Bowls, or third of their four Super Bowls. And so I had just watched the Bills play in the Super Bowl, like in my dorm room, like 5 months before that, right, at Wazoo. And I'm out there warming up and playing catch. Bruce Smith comes walking down the tunnel.
Animal.
Like, Jesus, dude, I'm in the wrong place. I do not want to be here right now.
You're looking at your left tackle. He was arguing with his wife before the game. You're like, hey, lock in.
Hey, buddy, I need you. So it's, but it's, I played at Washington State. We were good my last year, but my sophomore year, I did learn how to get hit. It's only Pac-10, that's how old I am. That was before the Pac-12 was Pac-10. And now it's Pac-2, but
well, no, they're all mountain. It's going to be Pac-12 again. I think.
I think they are. Yeah, they're bringing them in. But anyway, the only record I left with, I had took the most sacks in one season, my sophomore year. I think I got sacked 56 times in 11 games. So I learned how to get hit and get up and keep throwing. So,
well, going back to what we were talking about before, you look at another Washington guy, Ryan Leaf, right? Another, second overall pick, and it was. There was intense debate leading up to that draft. Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf. Now, obviously, Peyton Manning turned out to be one of the greatest of all time, and Ryan Leaf is like a cautionary tale. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was a toss-up between them. So when you're looking at how something can go one way for one guy and go another for another, is it more, do you think, kind of nature or nurture? Is it more who the person is, or is it more the environment that they're in? No, do they vet out the woman that you're with? Right.
That would be smart.
Who's he dating? Yeah, right. And
baseball scouts used to do that all the time.
Oh, really?
The guy had an ugly girlfriend, they wouldn't draft him.
Well, that doesn't say anything.
No, that was a big thing. They would follow guys to the.
Yeah. So
Why?
you're going to pick up women and stuff because you lack confidence, so you're not going to be good.
I was told they were like, if you got a fat girlfriend, you're not going to make it to the league, and it was like, so I just. Only
so you stopped dating,
chicks.
So you stopped dating her?
Yeah. Well, publicly anyway. I just knock on the door at 3 a.m. Be like, little pig, let me in.
How'd that work? Is that good? Did that work out well,
buddy? You ever been on a moped?
No, I've not actually.
Well,
I'm glad to say that I've not.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
You just don't want to tell anybody about it.
Okay.
Yeah, but when you're looking at the people that are successful, is it more them? Is it more their environment? Obviously being a Giant fan, Eli Manning, Archie Manning, he refused to let Eli go to
the Chargers.
Right.
Specifically because he's like, this is not a well-run organization.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't have that personal confidence, stability, intelligence, all those things, then there's no chance, right? And then to ultimately be successful, then you also need to be a part of an organization that gives you the support. So you need both, but it's a non-starter if you don't have the personal stuff.
I mean, we've
together.
seen people succeed in bats. Like Burrow is a good example. They've not got an offensive line, and it's wild up there.
Yeah, so he's thriving above.
He would have been good anywhere.
Yeah, he would have been. Yeah,
that's not true of everybody.
No, it's not true of everybody, certainly. And then there are some guys that can be propped up by a great organization for a little while. There were quarterbacks that have risen, and all of a sudden they were like a big name, and you're kind of looking at it like, man, they're just surrounded by a lot of dudes. And so that can happen.
Like
for a
Tom
little
Brady,
while.
for example. Right?
Yeah, Tom Brady was propped up by a great organization. He really wasn't worth a shit.
Clip it.
And then he proved that wrong when he went to the Bucs and won another championship.
True,
so
yeah.
Tommy's pretty special. You see some guys rise up for a little bit, but then if they're propped up by it, then it usually doesn't last. But yeah, you got to have all of it. Otherwise,
That's the thing that's kind of irritates me about the system quarterback stuff that people say. It's like pretty much every human being needs a good system to be a good quarterback. And you can't,
for sure.
There's no such thing as a guy. I mean, Burrow overcomes a lot with the offensive line there, but they had Mixon for a while, and they have Justin Jefferson, or I'm sorry, Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
it's like it's going fine for him.
No, he's got some dudes. He's got some guys around him, but he's playing really well, with that too. And so, but yeah, you got to have both the personal talent and ability, and then you need some dudes around you. You can give the fastest race car driver in the world, and you put him in a slow car on the racetrack. He's not going to do very well.
Why do you think why is there such a huge drop off between, let's say, the top 10, 15 quarterbacks in the league and everybody else? Is there really only 15 people on the planet that can do that job at a high level?
Yeah, there's definitely a separation between guys that are special. There's probably I'd have to go back and probably have to go look, but there's probably 10, 12, maybe 15 that are truly special. And then below that 15, there's probably like 1,000 guys, that are competent,
less,
that you put them in a good situation, they're going to be able to operate, right? But Josh Allen's and the Joe Burrows and these top guys, man, they're like Justin Herbert. I think he's truly special. And watched the game yesterday, and his receiver can't catch. Like 2 of his interceptions, including pick 6, go right through a guy's hands. So there's only so much he can overcome.